There's a popular YouTube show called Jubilee that organizes discussions with various different people having different beliefs. One of which the guest host sits at a table in the middle of a room filled with people who oppose them, and then they take turns sitting down face to face and arguing with them. And in their recent episode, they had leftist YouTuber Sam Sedar, who got owned by various different young adults, particularly this woman who schooled him on the founding of America and American culture.
So your argument is that
has been the dominant culture.
Just to be
and
clear,
we're not letting people assimilate to that. We're saying you should keep your culture, and this is why our culture is so divided.
Your argument is that Trump is good for those who want a dominant white European culture.
I mean,
well, among many other things, but since you put it that way, yeah.
That is what America is. It's rooted in European identity and Christian values. That's what it has been. Would you really disagree with that? What is it then, if that's not the identity of America?
Well, I think the identity of America...
For the majority of time, America's been a country. You don't think that's been the identity?
Well, actually, no. I think actually the identity of America has been, for better or for worse, a melting pot.
For better or for worse, but I thought diversity is our strength. And by the way, that young woman is Sarah Stock, who has obviously blown up because of that viral clip. And I'm sure that Conservative Inc. will very soon call her a evil white nationalist and try to get her canceled. But she is right about American culture. After all, these are the founding fathers. They certainly didn't look like this, or this, or this. And every ethnic group around the world has a different culture, different beliefs, different values, different standards, different practices that then become ingrained in the cultures of the countries that they once founded.
For better or for worse, a melting pot in that regard.
Yeah, maybe since like the 1960s. Melting pot literally means assimilation too. It means melting. It means you're assimilating to the dominant culture. Is that not what melting means?
No, it doesn't
and
mean
now instead we're saying there's something wrong with xenophobia.
Culture. No. I mean, look, I got to be honest with you. You and I have a fundamental disagreement. We will never see eye to eye on this. I think what you're expressing, though, is really what the Trump movement at its heart is about. And I think that's problematic.
I disagree. I don't think Trump's anywhere close to being a Christian nationalist. That's ridiculous. Trump's basically a Democrat from 15 years ago when it comes to social issues.
So you don't think that he's conservative enough for you?
Oh, definitely. Nowhere close. No.
He's not xenophobic enough for you?
No, he's trying to import a bunch of H-1Bs. Are you kidding?
Right. Oh, so you want to get them out too? Yeah. No, yeah. I think you're making my argument for me.
Actually, sir, the founding fathers of the United States of America made the same exact argument that she is making. Of course, you'll never hear this from Glenn Beck or anybody on Fox News or over at the Daily Wire. But if you actually look back at history, the very first Congress, which convened in 1789, then passed the Nationality Act of 1790, declaring and restricting who could be citizens of this great new country, restricting it literally to white people from Europe. And when that bright young woman mentioned the 1960s being a pivotal change in American culture, she was referencing something that you also will never hear talked about in mainstream conservative circles, because it's just too racist for them to point out actual American history and how we got to this point. She was referencing the Hart-Celler Act, also known as the Immigration and Nationality Act of 1965, which was the law that changed the United States immigration system, which had been previously in place, abolishing the national origins quota system, which was in place in order to keep the United States predominantly white. So while the politically correct talking point is that we're a nation of immigrants and we always have been, the official policy of the United States was always immigration in moderation in order to keep the original demographics in place. But because many people haven't assimilated and don't appreciate this incredible country that our founding fathers built, many of them are starting to regret living among white people and are pining away for a black-only country.
We're struggling to have one society, one culture, one set of mores.
But I thought diversity was our strength. What does she mean we're struggling?
One set of values, which is so different. And living together is hard, and it's going to be hard because there's very little compromise between the two things we want to do in the world and what we want to be. I'm not sure that this experiment can work, to be honest. And it's never been done. I mean, the only other country that's even similar to us is South Africa, but they're 80% black and like 15% white. So they're the flip side of us.
And that country has broken down into complete and utter chaos. So in order to try to reverse the joys of diversity, because of those who refuse to assimilate into American culture, many people, including this HBO documentary, are encouraging black people to leave the northern states and then move to the southern states and then concentrate themselves in various cities and states in order to create black majority regions.
I'm trying to find a way we can lift the burden off the shoulders of black people of white supremacy.
What he means, of course, is lifting the burden of having to live amongst us white people, despite everything that we've done for him, including saving him from growing up in an environment like this.
What if we skip over all that hoping? What if we skip over all of the pleading and the begging and the marching?
The whining, the crying, the complaining. Please do. We're sick of hearing it.
And the shouting, and go straight to the power. During the Great Migration, about 6 million black people left the South for cities in the North and West. I suggest that black people return to the states with the highest percentages already of black people, where they can gain political power.
If we're gonna make a go of it, the South makes a lot of sense.
This is obviously a pro-black nationalist documentary calling for blacks to just take over entire states. But if you're white and you just want to live amongst some fellow white neighbors in the suburbs, then you will be canceled like Scott Adams.
The best advice I would give to white people is to get the hell away from black people. Just get the f*** away. Wherever you have to go, just get away. Because there's no fixing this.
That's the exact same argument that they're making in this HBO documentary, but this gets promoted by a major multi-billion-dollar media conglomerate.
Every freedom is at stake.
There's some things in life that are bigger than you. It has to be about community success.
Has to be about black success. Getting away from the white man. Well, adios. Now, I'm not a white nationalist. I never have been. Richard Spencer has always been and will continue to be a gigantic douchebag. What I am against is forced diversity, artificial diversity. I am for free association. If this dude's not happy living around white people, then I wish him the best. In fact, he's doing all of us a favor. Thank you, sir. But because of the dramatic demographic changes we've been experiencing in the United States recently, in large part to the invasion of tens of millions of illegal aliens that were encouraged, facilitated, funded to come here, a lot of people are wondering about the future culture of America. And Tucker Carlson is musing aloud some thoughts which you're not allowed to have.
Well, just on principle, like every other group in the world has the right to its own homeland except white people? Like what?
Yeah.
Like tell me, just explain to me how that makes sense. Either no group has the right or every group has the right. Yep. It's really that simple. And if you want to say no group has the right, okay. You might even convince me. I don't know. I'm not a race guy, actually, by my temperament at all. I'd kind of like to ignore it. But as long as some groups have a right to self-determination, then every group has a right. It's that simple. Yes. And if there's a special carve-out where one group doesn't have a right, you have to explain to me why that group doesn't have that right.
Yep. Absolutely.
Is that fair?
No, it's absolutely fair.
That certainly is a fair question, but as you probably know by now, Ben Shapiro has decided that you're not allowed to ask questions. In fact, he has already answered this question for you.
I want to talk about borders broadly in a minute, something that Michael and I have been talking about. But you said the Great Replacement, you said demographics. A part of it is that they're trying to change America from a predominantly white nation to a not predominantly white nation. Ben, you've taken a lot of flack online for commenting a couple times over the years that you don't give a damn about the browning of America. What do you mean by that?
I don't care about the race. I care about the ideology.
But, of course, Ben Shapiro's precious Israel must maintain its Jewish supermajority. Otherwise, it'll be dangerous for his people. And, to his credit, Benjamin Netanyahu, the prime minister over there, did remove a bunch of African migrants from Israel because they were causing problems. Surprise, surprise. And in order to try to preserve what's left of American culture as a mainstream culture, President Trump did finally designate English to be the official language of the United States last week. We're just tired of people not assimilating to our culture and people coming here and then complaining about our culture and complaining about our history And even those people who have been born here complaining about things that happened 150 years ago and hallucinating, imagining racism still around every corner. Like Congressman Al Green, who interrupted President Trump's address to Congress last week and then was thrown out, although he should have been arrested, should have been dragged out. Of course, the reason for that wasn't because he was being disorderly. It's because of racism.
I know invidious discrimination. And when the speaker decided that I would be removed, and then there was this motion, this resolution to censure me, it became obvious to me that I was not being treated as others were. Mm-hmm. And candidly speaking, it is invidious discrimination, harmful discrimination.
This is the new narrative. He was kicked out because of discrimination.
Seems like a blatant disrespect for the House, and it wasn't coming from Representative Green. It was coming from the men behind him on the right side who were telling him and yelling, "Sit down." I mean, it felt like I was watching something in a history class of racists yelling at an elderly black man challenging the president of the United States.
But thankfully, we are making America great again, and the Black Lives Matter mural in Washington, D.C., right outside of the Capitol, or the White House, was removed yesterday on Black Lives Matter Plaza, which I'm sure will be quickly renamed as well. There it is. Remember, they painted a gigantic Black Lives Matter logo on the street there. You could see the Washington Monument in the background, the White House in the background. They tore it up yesterday. President Trump posted this video on Truth Social showing the workers restoring our America to its glory days. So that was fun, and continuing to watch the liberal lunatics melt down over Doge, cutting more waste, fraud, and abuse is also fantastic. Here is one of the organizers, obviously still wearing a COVID mask in 2025.
When you're on your weekend and you get the fork in the road message, or you get the subsequent 5 bullets, hey, what the hell did you do, you lazy federal worker?
She's talking about getting scared about the emails from people's bosses, asking them just 5 simple things they did during the week.
This week? How frightening is it that someone on X, the owner of X, speaks to you directly?
The richest man in the world, who is trying to prevent the United States from going bankrupt, is just looking out for all the ways that our government is wasting our money. How dare he?
To say, what did you do last week at work? And if you don't answer, I am going to fire you.
This is how entitled government workers are. It's not a stereotype that government workers, no offense if you are one, because there are some who are hardworking, but everybody knows that it's a gravy train. I mean, what's next? Are they going to go back to their old talking point about how Donald Trump was a dictator and he's going to cancel the next election? Oh, wait, what's this?
I have no doubt that if Trump could, he would try to run again. I think, Michael, the biggest failure of all of us during this Trump era has been the failure of imagination. Mm-hmm. We have not imagined how bad and how low he'd go. He tried to overthrow an American election 4 years ago. I have no doubt that he could try to stop the midterm elections. If he's physically able, he may try to run again in 28. This is really scary.
It is scary, Eugene, and you've covered.
Actually, sir, you aren't suffering from a failure of imagination. You're suffering from way too active of one. And if you want to see some creative content and commentary that's a little bit too hot for YouTube to handle, then join my Locals community by clicking the link in the description below. Sponsor my work there for $5 a month. It's a great way to support my work and get access to my exclusive Locals blog. So click the link in the description below, head on over there, and check it out.